Imagine this for a moment. You're sitting across a table from someone you trust. They lean forward and say, "Be honest with me." So you speak, you open up, you reveal your idea, the one you've been shaping for months. And the next morning, you wake up to see that someone else, that same person, has launched it before you. Not because they worked harder, not because they were more talented, but because you spoke too soon. In one moment of honesty, you didn't just share an idea, you handed away your advantage. This is the mistake millions make every day without even realizing it. Because honesty, by itself, isn't a virtue, it's a currency, and every time you speak, you spend it. Most people spend without thinking. The powerful spend with precision. The truth is simple. The world doesn't reward the most honest person in the room. It rewards the most strategic one. Growing up, you were taught, always tell the truth. But nobody taught you the second half of that rule. Tell the truth, only when it serves you. Your words are not air. You don't need to release every thought to stay alive. In fact, the more you reveal, the more predictable you become. And the more predictable you become, the easier you are to control. People say they value honesty, but watch what they do with the honesty you give them. Watch how they store it, shape it, twist it, and use it. That's why Machiavelli warned, a ruler must learn to disguise his intentions, because humans judge by what they see, not by what is real. Your truth may be pure, but the world you reveal it to is not. There are three forms of honesty people rely on. There is the honesty of morality, telling the truth because it makes you feel like a good person. Social approval is honest, telling the truth because you want people to like you. And then there is strategic honesty, the honesty used by leaders, thinkers, decision-makers, and powerful individuals. Strategic honesty is not about lying, it's about selecting, choosing what to say, choosing what to hold back, choosing the timing, the place, and the audience. It is honesty with boundaries, honesty with strength, honesty that never betrays you. You can see the difference clearly in negotiation. The first type walks into a room and spills everything. Their goals, their struggles, their limits, their fears. By the time they finish talking, the other side knows exactly how to corner them. They leave weaker than they arrived. Then there's the strategic one. They walk in calmly, measured. They reveal little. They listen more than they speak. They observe. They wait. And when they finally speak, their words land with weight, because each one has a purpose. They win not by force, but by control. This is why silence is such a powerful weapon. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is pressure. It forces the other person to reveal more. It gives you the upper hand without lifting a finger. People fear the quiet man because they can't read him. And what you cannot read, you cannot manipulate. That's the real danger of transparency. People think transparency makes them authentic, but in the wrong environment, transparency makes you exploitable. You've seen it, the coworker who shares every idea and wonders why others rise faster. The friend who reveals every insecurity and becomes less respected. The partner who overshares emotions and loses mystery. The competitor who exposes their strategy and gets outplayed. This isn't cruelty, this is human nature. The more predictable you are, the easier you are to defeat. Machiavelli compared truth to a weapon. He said the wise use truth like a blade, sharply, precisely, only when it cuts in their favor. The weak, however, use truth like water, pouring it everywhere, spilling it constantly, never realizing how much power they're draining. So, how do you become strategic? You practice 3 disciplines. First, before speaking, ask yourself, who benefits from what I'm about to say? If it benefits them more than you, stay silent. Second, pause before you speak. Just 3 seconds. It signals control, and it gives you time to choose the right truth instead of the impulsive one. Third, reveal only what strengthens you. Not your insecurities, not your unfinished plans, not your fears or doubts. Those belong to your discipline, not your audience. Because here is the final rule: be truthful, but never transparent. You owe the world sincerity, yes. but you do not owe anyone full access to your inner world. Your thoughts are treasure, your plans are leverage, your feelings are data. Protect them, because the man who reveals everything loses everything. But the man who controls what he reveals controls his world. And now that you understand how to guard your truth, there's a second enemy in your path, one far more dangerous than dishonesty. It's the force that convinces millions to stay small: conformity. And once you understand how conformity quietly kills power, you'll never look at the crowd the same way again. Picture a massive crowd from above, thousands of people moving in the same direction, wearing the same expressions, chasing the same dreams, repeating the same lines they were taught since childhood. Fit in, be normal, don't make noise, don't stand out. They don't call it submission, they call it belonging. But here's the uncomfortable truth: the more perfectly you fit in, the faster you disappear. Society doesn't reward those who blend with the crowd. It rewards those who rise above it, not by accident, but by intention. Because every culture, every system, every institution has one silent rule: conformity keeps the machine running. Individuality breaks it. And that's exactly why most people never rise. Not because they lack intelligence, but because they lack the courage to be different. Now imagine this. A young man walks into a room full of professionals. Everyone talks the same, dresses the same, thinks the same. He tries to match them, matches their tone, their behavior, their opinions. And what happens? Nothing. He becomes invisible. Then another man walks in. His presence is quiet but unmistakable. He doesn't mimic the room. He reshapes it just by being himself. People notice. They listen. They remember. Difference commands attention. Conformity erases identity. This is a law older than civilization. Machiavelli understood something few people dare to accept. A man who thinks for himself is dangerous. A man who imitates is useful. That's why society praises sameness as virtue, because sameness is predictable. Predictable people don't challenge authority. Predictable people don't start revolutions. Predictable people don't disrupt the system. Conformity keeps peace, yes, but it is a peace built on control, not freedom. Think about it. Every generation ends up chasing the same careers, posting the same content, following the same influencers, repeating the same opinions, buying the same products, living the same lifestyle. It feels comfortable. It feels safe. It feels familiar. But comfort is not growth. Comfort is slow decay. The crowd doesn't want you to evolve. It wants you to stay where they are. Because the moment you rise, you expose their stagnation. There's a reason the crowd mocks the outsider. Not because he's wrong, but because he threatens their sense of identity. Watch what happens when someone breaks the pattern. They dress differently, speak differently, dream differently, act differently. The crowd laughs. The crowd criticizes. The crowd calls them arrogant, weird, unrealistic, because nothing threatens a conformist more than a person who doesn't need the crowd. And yet, history remembers only the ones who broke the pattern. Every revolution was started by someone who didn't fit in. Every invention was created by someone who refused norms. Every empire was built by someone who rejected the script. The person who dares to be different is first ridiculed, then criticized, then feared, and finally followed. This cycle never changes. But here's the important part. Being different does not mean being reckless. Anyone can go against the grain for attention. That's not power, that's desperation. True strategic nonconformity is very different. It means you know exactly who you are, exactly what you believe, exactly what you stand for, and you hold that position even when the crowd disagrees. People think individuality is a loud rebellion, but most of the time it's a quiet decision. A decision to say, I will not shrink to make others comfortable. A decision to think before agreeing, to walk alone when necessary, to trust your inner voice over the external noise. This is not arrogance. This is leadership. Let me give you a simple example. Two employees join the same company. The first one blends in. He learns how everyone talks, behaves, and thinks. he becomes reliable, but forgettable. The second one stays polite, but he doesn't follow blindly. He asks different questions. He sees patterns others miss. He doesn't fear being the only dissenting voice in the room. Fast forward 2 years. The first employee is still waiting for recognition. The second, he's now leading the meetings. Because the crowd doesn't elevate those who blend in. The crowd elevates those who break the mold, and do it with confidence, clarity, and purpose. There's a quote often attributed to Machiavelli: "The one who stands apart commands the crowd. The one who joins it disappears inside it." This isn't poetic, it's strategic. When you walk with the crowd, you inherit their limits. You inherit their fears, their doubts, their comfort zone. But when you walk alone, even for a short distance, you discover 2 things. First, you are capable of more than you thought. Second, most people don't know where they're going. They're just following whoever looks confident. Leadership is not about having followers. Leadership is about being willing to take the first step, and that step is almost always a step away from the crowd. But here's the twist few understand. Standing out doesn't mean being loud. It means being intentional. You don't need to shout. You don't need to brag. You don't need to rebel against everything. You simply need to stop apologizing for who you are. Stop dulling your edges. Stop shrinking your voice. Stop editing your identity to fit the shape others prefer. The world is full of perfectly blended people, and that's why the ones with different colors are unforgettable. Difference is not a burden. The difference is leverage. But be prepared. The path of individuality comes with solitude. True leaders spend long stretches of time alone, not because they are lonely, but because their minds operate on frequencies. The crowd hasn't tuned in yet. And yes, the crowd may hate you before it respects you. They may misunderstand you, misjudge you, mislabel you. But understand this clearly: respect never precedes difference. It follows it. The ones who mock you today will imitate you tomorrow. Because people don't truly hate originality, they fear it. They fear the courage it takes to stand outside the herd. So what does it mean to embrace strategic individuality? It means choosing your own principles instead of inheriting society's expectations. It means stepping outside the patterns that limit the masses. It means refusing to repeat the same script. Millions have performed before you. You weren't born to be a copy. You weren't placed here to be a replica. Your purpose isn't to maintain the system. Your purpose is to evolve beyond it. Remember this: conformity buys temporary peace. Individuality earns permanent respect. The crowd fears the one who walks alone, because he cannot be influenced, cannot be bribed by approval, and cannot be controlled by rejection. The world adjusts to his gravity because he refuses to shrink to fit theirs. So walk alone when you must, be different when it matters, and never apologize for standing out, because the moment they tell you to fit in, that is the exact moment you know you're already rising above them. Picture a lion resting under the shade of a tree, silent, still, unbothered. Around him, other animals move freely, unaware of the power resting only a few feet away. The lion doesn't roar. He doesn't need to announce himself. His strength is not weakened by silence. It's concealed by it, protected by it. This is the essence of strategic humility, not the humility you were taught growing up, not the humility that says stay small, stay quiet, don't stand out, don't intimidate anyone. What you were taught was submission disguised as virtue. But real humility, the kind used by powerful people, is not a weakness. It's camouflage. It's armor. It's a shield that hides your ambition long enough for it to grow into something unstoppable. Society praises humility, not because it wants you to be strong, but because it wants you to be manageable. A humble person rarely demands more. A humble person rarely disrupts the system. A humble person rarely threatens anyone's position. And that's exactly why you've been taught to worship humility. Because the moment you begin to rise, people feel threatened. Your confidence reminds them of their own lack of courage. Your ambition exposes their excuses. Your progress highlights their stagnation. So what do? They tell you to stay humble. Not because it's good for your soul, but because it's comfortable for them. Imagine a scenario. A man starts winning in life. He worked for years in silence. He built skills while others slept. He took risks while others hesitated. He made sacrifices no one noticed. Now he has momentum, results, a future pulling him upward. But the moment his success becomes visible, others rush to say, "Don't get arrogant. Stay humble. Remember where you came from. Don't make too much noise." Why do they suddenly care? Because your growth disrupts their comfort. Your rise challenges their self-image. Your confidence feels like a mirror showing them everything they chose not to become. They want you to dim your light so they can stay comfortable in their shadows. This is why strategic humility exists. It lets you move quietly, build silently, grow invisibly, and strike only when the moment is right. Machiavelli understood this better than anyone. He wrote that a leader should appear merciful, faithful, humane, religious, but only appear so. Why? Because appearance disarms people. It lowers their guard. It keeps envy asleep. It keeps rivals unaware of your true strength. If you walk around glowing with your full power, you attract predators. You attract opposition. You attract sabotage. But if you appear modest, calm, soft-spoken, humble, people underestimate you. And being underestimated is one of the greatest advantages in life. Because the person who underestimates you never prepares for your rise. There are two kinds of humility. The first is forced humility, the kind society teaches you to keep you quiet. The second is strategic humility, the kind of powerful people use to conceal their true strength until the moment they decide to reveal it. The difference is massive. Forced humility makes you small. Strategic humility makes you invisible until you decide not to be. Think of a chessboard. The queen doesn't rush forward at the start. She waits, she observes, she watches openings form. She disguises her threat until one decisive moment, and then the entire board shifts. That's strategic humility. Let's step into a real-world example. Two employees join a company. The first is genuinely humble in the traditional sense. He avoids attention, never talks about his accomplishments, never fights for recognition. He believes good things come naturally to those who stay humble. Years pass. He works hard, but people walk right over him. They assume he wants nothing. They assume he has no ambition, invisible, forgotten, ignored. The second employee practices strategic humility. On the surface, he's polite, respectful, and modest. He doesn't brag, but he does make sure his results are seen. He communicates his achievements with clarity. He sets boundaries without being loud. He knows when to step into the spotlight and when to step back into the shadows. Years later, he's leading teams, not because he shouted for attention, but because he controlled attention. This is the difference between being humble and using humility. People confuse two qualities, arrogance and awareness. Arrogance is loud, awareness is quiet. Arrogance demands attention. Awareness commands it. Arrogance is insecure noise. Awareness is silent power. The humble man avoids the spotlight completely. The aware man steps into it when it benefits him and steps out when it doesn't. This is mastery, because true power doesn't need to prove itself. It doesn't need to brag. It doesn't need to constantly announce victories. Power moves silently until silence no longer serves it. Strategic humility also protects you in relationships. Consider this: the overly humble partner, the one who never expresses needs, never sets boundaries, never assert themselves, always ends up being taken for granted. Not out of malice, but because people naturally respect what stands firm and forget what bends too easily. The self-assured partner, who is polite but firm, kind but clear, compassionate but confident, that partner is respected, not because they're aggressive, but because they carry themselves with silent strength. People don't admire you for being endlessly humble. They admire you for being balanced. In business, it's the same. The worker who hides his value out of humility never rises. But the one who shows results without bragging, who demonstrates competence through action, who lets outcomes speak louder than ego, he becomes indispensable. Because humility without power invites exploitation. Humility with power invites respect. Now here's a truth most people never learn. Envy is real, and if you expose too much success too quickly, you activate it. Envy isn't always loud or obvious. Sometimes it's silent, sometimes it's hidden behind a smile. But it influences decisions, opportunities, support, and sabotage. Strategic humility shields you from unnecessary envy. It protects your growth while it's still vulnerable. Show people enough to appear modest, but never show them enough to become a target. Let them underestimate you, because nothing is more dangerous than a person whose ambition moves unseen. Imagine a scenario. A man walks into a room full of enemies who believe he is weak. They relax, they reveal their plans, they lower their guard. But when the moment arrives, he reveals the strength he's been hiding all along. And no one is prepared. That's not deception. That's strategy. Strategic humility is knowing that power shines brightest when it's revealed at the perfect time, like a lion that doesn't roar all day. But when the moment comes to strike, the entire jungle remembers who rules it. So how do you practice strategic humility? You follow 3 principles. First, be modest in manner, relentless in essence. Your behavior should be flexible, your core should be immovable. Second, let results speak. Words say a little, results say everything. Third, reveal only what strengthens you, never what weakens you. Your plans, your power, your ambition, show them slowly, intentionally, selectively. Not because you're hiding, because you're protecting. Remember this, the truly powerful do not look powerful at first glance. They look calm, polite, measured. But behind that quiet presence is a mind calculating, a will sharpening, a strength rising. That is strategic humility. It is not about being small, it is about moving silently until the moment your power becomes undeniable. Because when you master silent strength, you don't need to roar, your presence speaks for you. And when the time comes to reveal yourself, the world won't see you coming, they'll only feel the impact. They tell you to be nice, to be agreeable, to be pleasant, to never make anyone uncomfortable. Society loves the nice person. They praise him, they celebrate him, they call him mature, civil, well-raised. But here is the truth most people never hear. Niceness is not always kindness. Sometimes it's control. Because the man who is afraid to upset others, the man who avoids conflict at all costs, the man who tries to please everyone, is the easiest man in the world to manipulate. He becomes predictable, safe, easy to use, easy to ignore, and the world quietly steps over him while telling him he's doing the right thing. Picture this. Someone crosses your boundaries. You feel anger rising, but instead of speaking up, you swallow it. You fake a smile. You pretend nothing happened. You tell yourself, it's fine, I'm being mature. But the person who crossed your line thinks something very different. It was safe to disrespect you. You think you kept the peace. But what you really kept was their comfort, not your dignity. Niceness, when unconditional, becomes a leash. And the person holding the other end is anyone who realizes you're afraid to disappoint them. Think of the strongest people you admire. Are they cruel? No. Are they rude? No. But they aren't nice in the way society defines it. Their kindness is selective, intentional, measured. They do not give kindness freely to everyone. They give it to people who earn it, people who reciprocate it, people who respect it, because kindness without boundaries is not virtue, it is a vulnerability. Machiavelli understood this human paradox long ago. He warned that trying to be loved by everyone is the fastest way to lose power. A leader who needs universal approval will betray his own values just to avoid conflict. He will say yes when he should say no. He He will tolerate disrespect. He will reward disloyalty. He will let people cross lines because he wants to be seen as nice, and eventually he becomes ineffective. Not because he lacked skill, but because he lacked edges. A smooth stone is pleasant to touch, but it never carves anything. Let me give you a simple image. Two leaders stand before a group. One smiles constantly, nods at everything, avoids confrontation, and softens every decision to please everyone. People say they like him, but they do not follow him. The second leader is calm but firm. His tone is respectful, but his boundaries are solid. He doesn't try to please the room, he leads it. People may fear him a little, but they trust him more, because deep down, humans do not respect endless kindness. They respect clarity, conviction, and standards. Niceness makes you likable. Standards make you respected. And when you have to choose respect. Respect endures. Liking fades. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Many avoid. When you're too nice, you silently teach the world how to treat you. If you always forgive, they stop apologizing. If you always accommodate, they stop respecting your time. If you always agree, they stop hearing your voice. If you never say no, they take your yes for granted. People learn your boundaries, not from your words, but from your patterns. If your pattern is niceness without firmness, people will take advantage of it, not because they are evil, but because humans naturally test limits. So how do you fix this? You don't become cruel. You don't become aggressive. You don't become cold. You become selective. This is what powerful people do. They give kindness like an investment, not like charity. They evaluate. They observe. They watch how someone treats them, how someone responds, how someone reciprocates. If the person respects their boundaries, they open the door wider. If the person abuses their kindness, they close the door calmly and permanently. No drama, no explosion, just decisive boundaries. It is not cruelty, it is self-respect. Imagine a sword. Its blade is sharp, but its sheath is soft. The sheath is kindness, warm, gentle, protective. The blade is boundaries, strong, firm, undeniable. A sword with no sheath is dangerous to everyone. A sword with no blade is useless to itself. You need both. Kindness shows your humanity. Boundaries show your strength. Together, they create respect, and respect creates influence. And here is the final Machiavellian truth. If you must choose, it is better to be respected than liked. People will follow the kind, but they obey the strong. Niceness is an emotion. Respect is perception. And perception shapes power. You don't need to be aggressive. You don't need to be loud. You don't need to intimidate. You simply need to adopt one core rule: kindness with edges, because soft people bend, sharp people break. But those who are soft with precision and firm with purpose cannot be manipulated. This is where real power begins. Quiet confidence, calm strength, kindness that has limits, niceness that has conditions, softness that protects itself, firmness that stands unshaken. Master this balance, and you stop being nice. You become effective. And the world never forgets an effective person. They tell you to be patient, to wait for your turn, to trust the process, to let things come naturally. It sounds wise, it sounds peaceful, it even sounds spiritual, but most of the time it isn't wisdom, it's sedation, because the kind of patience society teaches you is not the patience of warriors, leaders, or people who build empires. It's the patience of containment, the patience of waiting in line, the patience of staying quiet, the patience of staying small. But here's the truth: patience, when practiced without intention, becomes the slowest form of surrender. The world tells you to wait, so you don't disrupt the system, so you don't challenge the order, so you don't rise faster than others expect. Patience becomes a leash, when it teaches you to sit still while someone else takes what could have been yours. Picture two men. Both want a better life, both want success, Both want change. The first man waits. He's patient. He tells himself, "My time will come." He keeps planning, preparing, thinking, perfecting, refining his ideas for the 10th, 20th, and 50th time. But months pass, years pass, and nothing happens. Not because he lacked talent, not because he lacked intelligence, but because he mistook waiting for a strategy. He misunderstood patience, and patience betrayed him. The second man also waits, but differently. He waits with purpose. He studies quietly. He observes the landscape. He prepares his resources. He sharpens his skills. But when the moment appears, even faintly, he acts. He doesn't hesitate. He doesn't seek permission. He doesn't wait for perfect conditions. He moves, even if he's not ready, even if the timing isn't ideal, even if people tell him to slow down. And because he moves while the world is still sleeping, he wins. This is active patience, the patience of readiness, the patience of watching, calculating, and preparing, not the patience of waiting for life to hand you opportunities. Machiavelli understood this deeply. He wrote that fortune favors the bold, not hesitant. He warned that opportunity is like a river in flood. Use it while it flows, because when the waters settle, you might never get that chance again. Passive patience makes you hope the river will come to you. Active patience prepares the boat. This is the difference between those who get lucky and those who create luck. Here's the part most people never realize. Opportunity never looks like opportunity when it first appears. It looks like chaos. It looks like confusion. It looks uncertain, risky, and unstable. The crowd waits for the moment to become safe, the strategic act while it's still dangerous, because the moment the opportunity becomes obvious, it's already crowded, already competitive, already gone. The door everyone sees is a door already closing. The key belongs to those who moved when no one else believed. Think about every major shift in history, business, or innovation. The first movers always strike early. They act when others hesitate. They claim land before the crowd even realizes land exists. They don't wait for the green light. They don't wait for applause. They don't wait for permission. They build momentum quietly, invisibly, patiently, then strike with ruthless precision. That's active patience. But let's clarify something important. This is not a call to recklessness. You don't rush blindly. You don't take every risk. You don't act without preparation. Active patience means you prepare in silence and act with speed. Preparation plus timing equal to power. The man who waits to feel ready will wait forever. The man who becomes ready by acting builds a life others will call lucky. Let's make this real. Picture yourself with a dream, a business, a skill, a project, a career you want to pursue. Most people spend years waiting for the right time, the right mood, the right finances, the right motivation, the right confidence, the right clarity, the right opportunity. But here's the truth. Time never becomes right. You make it right. Confidence doesn't come before action. It comes after it. Clarity doesn't come before starting. It comes from doing. Momentum doesn't appear magically. You create it. People who wait for ideal conditions remain stuck in preparation loops, dreaming of moments they will never take. People who strike early build the best conditions for themselves. Active patience is not about waiting for the open door. It's about quietly preparing the tools that will break the door open when the moment arrives. You wait not to avoid action, but to choose the exact moment to act. You wait to learn, to plan, to sharpen, to become dangerous. But when the world opens a crack, you slip through before anyone else sees it. That's not impatience, that's precision. So here's the rule: don't wait for your time. Create it. Don't wait for a signal. Become the signal. Don't wait for the opportunity. Build the capacity to seize it. Because every second you hesitate, someone else is moving, someone else is acting, someone else is becoming the person you were meant to be. The world doesn't care who deserves success. It rewards those who take it. And the ones who take it are rarely the ones who waited politely for their turn. They are the ones who practiced active patience. preparing when the world rested, moving when the world paused, and striking when the world blinked. They tell you loyalty is everything, that good people stay, that good people never switch sides, that good people keep giving no matter what it costs. It sounds noble, it sounds righteous, it sounds honorable. But here's the darker truth. Blind loyalty isn't loyalty, it's a leash, and the person holding the leash isn't always worthy of it. You were raised to believe that loyalty is moral. But Machiavelli understood something far more realistic. Loyalty has two sides. One is strength, the other is submission. The world wants you to submit, to stay loyal even when it harms you, to stay committed even when they've stopped earning it, to stay quiet even when the cost is your dignity. Because loyal people are predictable, and predictable people are easy to control. Picture this. A man works for a company for 10 years. He shows up early, leaves late, sacrifices family time, never complains. He stays loyal. And what happens? When budgets tighten, he's the first one cut. Not because he wasn't valuable, but because he was replaceable. And because his loyalty blinded him to the truth that he should have been loyal, not to the company, but to his own purpose. Loyalty to something that doesn't respect you is not honor, it's self-betrayal. Machiavelli observed that people are loyal only until it no longer serves them. And that is not cynicism, it's human nature. People stay loyal as long as they benefit, as long as they feel valued, as long as the relationship is mutual. But the moment loyalty becomes one-sided, the moment it drains rather than strengthens, it becomes a chain. A powerful person recognizes this quickly. A naive person recognizes it too late. Think of friendship. You've likely had someone in your life who expected your loyalty, but only when it benefited them. When they needed help, you were there. When they needed support, you gave it. When they were failing, you stayed. But when you needed something, they vanished, suddenly busy, suddenly distant, suddenly unavailable. Yet if you pull away, they accuse you of being disloyal. This is how emotional control works. They weaponize loyalty against you. Or consider relationships. A partner demands loyalty even when they no longer honor the relationship. They expect devotion even when they've stopped giving it. They insist you stay even when staying destroys you. They call it commitment. They call it love. They call it loyalty. But it's not loyalty, it's fear. Fear of losing what they don't appreciate. Loyalty to someone who drains you is not love, it's bondage. Here is the uncomfortable question. To whom should you be loyal, and why? Loyalty should never be a default. It should be earned, evaluated, tested. The powerful man is not heartless, he is discerning. He gives loyalty the same way he gives money, carefully, with terms, with limits, with awareness. Loyalty should be treated like a loan, not a gift. A loan has conditions. A loan has standards. A loan must be repaid. A gift? A gift can be thrown away, taken for granted, or used against you. Never give your loyalty as a gift to someone who treats it like trash. This brings us to the core truth. You owe loyalty only to what protects your purpose, not to a job, not to a title, not to a person who stopped valuing you, not to a community that holds you back, not to a belief that limits your growth. Loyalty should serve your evolution, not suffocate it. If a situation no longer respects you, your responsibility is to leave, not to stay loyal to something that diminishes you. Leaving is not betrayal. Leaving is clarity. Machiavelli warned rulers never to depend on loyalty, because loyalty built on emotion will collapse under pressure. He advised leaders to focus on mutual interest, not emotional promises. The same applies to you. If someone's loyalty to you is based on feelings, it will crumble the moment pressure rises. But if loyalty is built on mutual respect, mutual benefit, and mutual value, it becomes unbreakable. Not because of emotion, but because of alignment emotion. Always. Let me illustrate this with two people. The first person remains loyal out of guilt. They stay in a failing friendship, a draining job, a dead relationship, because they don't want to be seen as disloyal. They sacrifice themselves to protect someone else's comfort. Their loyalty becomes a slow death. The second person practices conditional loyalty. They give support, but they expect support. They give respect, but they demand respect. They stay committed, but only as long as the other side is committed too. When the exchange becomes one-sided, they step away, and that decision protects their future. Loyalty without boundaries destroys life. Loyalty with boundaries preserves it. True loyalty is not blind. True loyalty is reciprocal. It is earned, not demanded. It is mutual, not manipulated. It is rooted in transparency, not fear. And here is the final Machiavellian law: when someone demands loyalty from you, watch them closely. People who deserve your loyalty never have to ask for it. People who don't deserve it are the ones who demand it most loudly. A leader who asks for blind loyalty is hiding incompetence. A friend who demands unconditional loyalty is hiding selfishness. A partner who wants loyalty without earning it is hiding insecurity. Your task is simple: observe how they handle the loyalty you give. If they invest it, build on it, and return it, you've found an ally. If they waste it, take it for granted or exploit it, take it back before it costs you everything. Because in the game of life, loyalty is powerful only when it is conditional. Conditional on respect, conditional on reciprocity, conditional on truth. Treat loyalty like leverage. Treat it like currency. Treat it like something precious. Because the moment you give loyalty to the wrong person, you stop owning your life, and they start owning you. They tell you that life is about being happy, that your purpose is to feel good, that success means smiling all the time, and peace means never facing discomfort again. It sounds beautiful. It sounds comforting. It sounds safe. But it is the most seductive lie you've ever been told. Because when society tells you to chase happiness, what it's really saying is this: stop chasing power, stop chasing growth, stop chasing the strength that makes you uncontrollable. A constantly happy man is a harmless man. A harmless man is an obedient man. And an obedient man is the easiest to rule. That is why comfort is sold as the highest achievement. Because comfort kills the fire inside you. Comfort kills ambition. Comfort kills the hunger that builds empires. The pursuit of happiness is not freedom. It is a trap. A soft prison that feels like luxury, but functions like chains. Picture a man sitting on a couch, surrounded by every convenience. Food delivered, entertainment endless, comfort everywhere. On the surface it looks like he's won, but look closer. His drive disappears, his discipline weakens, his goals fade, his edge dulls. He isn't growing, he isn't evolving, he isn't becoming anything. He's just comfortable. And comfort for a man with potential is death in disguise. Machiavelli understood this far earlier than modern psychology. He wrote that humans are driven by fear or ambition, both of which bring tension, pain, and discomfort. But that discomfort is the only force that keeps a person alive, alert, and dangerous. The happiest people are not the strongest. The most comfortable people are not the most capable. It is the ones who willingly face struggle, who confront challenge, who walk into the storm, who build themselves through friction. These are the ones who rise. Because growth never feels like happiness. Growth feels like resistance. Growth feels like doubt. Growth feels like chaos pushing you to evolve. You cannot become powerful while chasing comfort. Think of the people who changed history, the leaders, the inventors, the warriors, the thinkers. Were they happy all the time? Not even close. They were fulfilled. They were driven. They were clear. They were disciplined. They didn't wake up thinking, how do I feel good today? They woke up thinking, what must I build? What must I conquer? What must I create? And it was that purpose, not happiness, that gave their lives meaning. Purpose is a fire. Happiness is a candle. One lights a moment, the other lights a lifetime. You see, happiness is fleeting. It comes and goes like the weather. It can be bought, sold, or faked. But purpose? Purpose is earned. Purpose is forged. Purpose is carved out of pain, persistence, and clarity. Society wants you to chase pleasure because pleasure is distracting. Pleasure is numbing. Pleasure keeps you too satisfied to question anything. A man addicted to pleasure will never revolt, will never challenge the system, will never build anything beyond himself. That's why the world tells you to enjoy life, not because it cares about your well-being, but because a distracted man is a manageable man. Now imagine something different. Imagine a man who stops chasing happiness, who stops needing constant comfort, who stops running from discomfort, who stops expecting life to be easy. Instead, he chases purpose, he chases self-mastery, he builds discipline like muscle, he embraces the hard road because it sharpens him. Such a man becomes dangerous, not to others but to the systems that rely on weakness, because you cannot manipulate a man who no longer seeks comfort. You cannot control a man who embraces discomfort. The man who does not fear pain cannot be ruled by pleasure. That is sovereignty. Let's make it real. Think about the gym. The weight that feels good does nothing for you. The weights that hurt, that shake your arms, that strain your muscles, that push your limits, that's where growth is. This is true in every area of life. Comfort preserves who you are. Discomfort builds who you could be. And the world has more comfortable people than ever before, yet more unhappy people than ever before. Why? Because pleasure is not fulfillment. Comfort is not a purpose. Happiness is not meaning. A life built on comfort will crumble under pressure. A life built on purpose will withstand anything. So how do you adopt purpose over pleasure? It starts with one shift. Stop asking, what will make me happy? And start asking, what will make me powerful? Not power over others, power over yourself, power over your impulses, power over your emotions, power over your fears, power over your distractions, power over your weaknesses. That kind of power creates a life you don't need to escape from. And here's the paradox: when you stop chasing happiness and start chasing mastery, you experience a deeper, rarer happiness as a side effect of becoming strong. Happiness becomes the reward, not the goal. So here is the final Machiavellian law: happiness is the bait, purpose is the hook. Only the wise escape the trap, because a man who needs pleasure can be manipulated. A man who needs comfort can be controlled. A man who fears discomfort can be dominated. But a man who learns to walk willingly into discomfort, a man who builds himself through struggle, a man who chooses meaning over pleasure, he becomes unstoppable. Nothing frightens him, nothing seduces him, nothing weakens him. Because he has built a life where peace comes from mastery, not from escape. And that is the kind of life most people will never taste.